Hello, Phil Thatch here. Last night I had the opportunity to photograph a high school basketball game in a very dark gymnasium. I used my Nikon Z6 and the FTZ F2Z adapter and my old 24 to 70 f2.8. I carried the 14 to 24 and I carried the 70 to 200 2.8s with me as well, but I ended up using the 24 to 70 for the entire game. And I wanted to show you a couple things. First of all, let's turn the camera on, and you can see there I shot, let me put it in play. I shot 1,315 images, and there's my battery indicator. It's more than half. So that's a lot of pictures on one charge for the battery not to be anywhere near being done. The next thing I want to show you is what focus mode I used. I used, let's see what it's called, dynamic area autofocus, which if you were in an older Nikon DSLR, that would be like D9 or D25, I think is what the D500 and D850 call it. That's what I ended up using, and I put it, let's see if I can show you. That would be dead in the middle. I usually had it 2 spots or maybe 1 spot up, and I would just try to keep that on the player, and I wasn't using any auto tracking or any kind of mess like that. My settings were ISO 6400 f2.8 and 1/800th of a second for all the shots. I think a couple at the very first I was at 1/640th, and then I noticed some motion blur and I tried 1/800th, and it was still relatively bright in the frame, so I left it there. I've shot 100% manual, no auto ISO, no auto anything. I used the drive mode. I use continuous extended, where this is about 5.5 frames a second, they say, and it will re-meter in between every shot, and this should be like 9 thereabouts, and it felt pretty much as fast as my D500, which shoots 10. In this mode, the camera will not meter. It'll take the first shot and meter the rest of them the same. But I was shooting in 100% manual, so that didn't matter to me at all. I had done the metering before I ever pressed the shutter button. I had set up my exposure. Okay, I also want to show you when I was shooting the game, I was shooting at the baseline, kind of not directly under the goal, but off to the side, but on the baseline. So when the action was all the way on the other side of the court, I wasn't shooting, and I would hold my camera down, and sometimes the action would come back towards me, and this screen would be on, and even if you set it to where it only uses the EVF would still power down. There's a sensor right here. You can see it at the very top of the EVF, and that'll detect your presence. As a matter of fact, I can't see it when I'm looking at the camera, but you can see the little red light, and that's probably the sensor. But anyway, I got to where I was holding the camera like this, but I would hold my thumb with my other hand here, so the EVF was running. So if the action came down my way, I could just put the camera straight on my face, and off I'd go. Another thing that happened, a lot of times if I was doing a panning shot, what I'm seeing in the EVF, there was no blackout, but what I'm seeing is the last picture it made. So I could get behind pretty easy. I kind of had to lead the action some, try to stay ahead of the action. So that made it pretty difficult. An optical viewfinder would have been better in that situation, especially because I knew my exposure. I had my exposure already set. And one of the advantages of an electronic viewfinder is you can look through the EVF and see what your exposure is and make adjustments without really even looking at the histogram or chimping or any of that stuff. So I would say that would have been a disadvantage for my shooting last night. That's pretty much all I want to show you on the camera, and now I'll show you in Lightroom some of the exposures and what they looked like. Okay, so here are the photographs in Lightroom. These are the ones that I've 5-starred and edited. These are all ISO 6400, f2.8. The first few, like this one's 1/640th, and like I mentioned, they end up being 1/800th for the majority of the night. We're still at 1/640th. But you know, the Z6 it's not supposed to be a sports or a wildlife camera, but here I am at a basketball game shooting with nothing but the Z6, and was able to get the job done with it. So you know, there's a lot of noise in these, and that's because this Gymnasium is so dark I had to use ISO 6400. But I think the main thing that people want to see is the autofocus. And I think these pictures are, for the most part, in focus. I mean, I'm not a great basketball photographer at all. I've only photographed a few basketball games. I like this one. 24 millimeters. It's pretty wide, and you know, the wall of the Gymnasium is right by the baseline, so I'm right there. But I was able to get these tall young men in the picture head to toe with 24 millimeters. Focus could have been better on this one. You see, he's out of focus. I think this young man right here is in focus, or maybe this one, but the actual subject is off. Let's see how much that's cropped. Yeah, there we go. You can see I've straightened it and cropped it a pretty good bit. Not as much as I was thinking, but I definitely missed focus on that one, even though I do like that picture. But you know, it shoots fast. It focuses pretty good. You know, it's no D5, but for Nikon's first go at a mirrorless camera autofocus system, I think it gets a bad rap. I think it did better than most people would have thought it would have been able to do at a high school basketball game in a very dark gymnasium. You can see those lights at the top here? It's just fluorescent tubes. These are not the kind of lights that you need at all to photograph a basketball game, a fast-moving basketball game indoors. Yeah, here's another. I mean, like I say, these are all fluorescent tubes, and there's not even a great deal of them. I think my office at work is brighter than this. You need really, really bright lights to photograph sports because it moves so fast. But it did okay. There's the student section. They had a discount to get in to this game if you wore black clothing. They call it a blackout. And the student section is rocking. A lot of pictures. I think I only used 49 or so out of the 1,300 that I took. So there's more bad ones than good ones. And once I make my way through the good ones, I'll let you see some crappy ones. And you know, some of the good ones are not all that great, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it's not loading yet or if it's that bad out of focus. We'll come back. That one may be that bad out of focus. It's a nice drive right here. This young man has posted up and he's ready to take it. It's always good when you're photographing something to try to tell a story. You want to try to get a little bit of everything. So I thought this meeting with the team was cool. These the coaches here at this school, I think this is father and son. And according to my daughter, they're both great teachers. A little fast break. let me I only got that shot from that drive, but it was a pretty good drive and it could have been great. I'm going to turn the filters off so we can see everything. I did not use this picture, and I didn't. That's the next picture in the sequence, and I didn't use this one because the camera had quit focusing on him and it started focusing on the people in the background. On the next shot, though, same problem. The student section is in focus and the young man on the fast break is not. And on this one, the camera had reacquired him, and now I'm going to call this one my fault. I cut his hand off, and this may have been my favorite picture of the night if I just hadn't cut the young man's hand off, because you got the crowd out of focus in the background, but you can see everybody's watching and reacting, and the young man is going for two. But I cut the basketball off. Same thing there. And there I zoomed out. I'm at 45 millimeters here, 60 there, and 70 before. So I realized I was cutting it off, and instead of raising the camera up because I was afraid it would cut his feet off, you know, all this is happening pretty fast, I just zoomed out on the 24 to 70. And by there, I'm at 34 millimeters, which is too wide. So I need to get better myself at basketball. I think the biggest limiting factor of the Z6 and the 24 to 70 and me for basketball was me. But it was still a fun night. I really enjoyed it, and you know, at the end of the day, I got the job done. I got pictures to for the school to use in the yearbook of the basketball game. Lots of pictures. This will give you an idea how fast the camera shoots. Let's see, I don't think I finished with all of the ones that I actually liked enough to edit. I missed focus on that one too. This is the actual subject of the picture, and I've got this young man here in pretty good focus, but not this one. A little better there. Cut his foot off. I hate that, and all those other guys' foot. This one's cropped a lot. There's a if I showed you the uncropped version, there's a lot of real estate up here. It's not being used. That's where we got to when we were looking through the pictures. Anyway, Nikon Z6 will make its way through a high school basketball game in a poorly lit gymnasium. So you can look at these pictures and boy, that picture is bad out of focus. That's my fault. Or maybe it's motion blur. But for whatever reason, it's just not good. I can't believe I picked it. But I'll let you look at these pictures a little bit more, and you can kind of judge for yourself what you think of the Z6. And this is the lens I use it's an F mount 24 to 70. It's the current one has vibration reduction. This one does not. Of course, I had the IBIS, the internal in-body image stabilization, was turned on. But it's a fantastic lens. I think I've had it 6 years, or nearly 6 years, and it still does well. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day, and you can judge the Z6 for yourself.